Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very honored and privileged actually to chair this opening session on behalf of the three co-chairs of the conference, Stefanie Lumnitz from the European Space Agency, Sergio Albani from the European Union Satellite Center, and myself from the Joint Research Center of the European Commission. This edition of BiDS follows the one that was online due to the pandemic, of course. So it's really great to see you so numerous this morning here for this in-presence edition of the conference, the first in-presence edition after the pandemic. Because we really believe that face-to-face meeting contacts are really essential for building up the big data from space community, generating new contacts and ideas. And as you know, our main goal here, being here today, so numerous, is to progress the field of big data from space. So that means to actually find new insights and new foresight that are contributing to global challenges like climate change, sustainable development goals, the preservation of biodiversity. So we share really a common purpose and a common goal in our community. Now, let me emphasize also that this edition of BiDS has been actually quite innovative because we are now here today for the opening session, but actually yesterday was already a first day of the conference devoted to the so-called satellite events that were very successful. We had about already 300 participants yesterday taking part to numerous tutorials. We had 13 tutorials, 2 challenges and 1 hackathon. And I think that the overarching theme of all these satellite events yesterday was about open science, reproducibility of analytics workflow, and this is really essential for our community because when it comes to generate insight and foresights, you can only build trust about these if you are transparent about the way you generate them. And in essence, like the Copernicus program of the European Union, from the very start declared that all the data generated by all the Sentinel missions are full, free, and open. So that's also essential in this respect. Now, I must add also that if we are all here in this Austria Vienna Center today, this is thanks to the great support we receive from the Austrian ministry. Here, the name of the ministry is quite long, so I need to read it out for you. So it's from Federal Ministry, Republic of Austria, Climate Action, Environment, Energy, Mobility, Innovation and Technology, in short, BMK. So just remember that BMK is referring to this federal ministry. I am therefore very honored now to give the floor to Henriette Spyra, that is heading the Directorate for General for Innovation and Technology at BMK. Henriette, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Pierre. And for those of you who think that this is still a bit sparsely populated, do not worry. We have 710 registration, which is actually one of the larger editions. But I myself remember when going to scientific conference, I would usually leave out the boring opening words of people from ministries because they're not very detailed. I have to admit, I'm not very detailed either. Still, for those of you who are here, welcome. On behalf of the ministry with a very long name, I will stick to Space Ministry for now, a name that doesn't even come up there, but this is also our responsibility. Many thanks, of course, to our partners at the European Space Agency, the Joint Research Center, and the SatCen, Satellite Center of the European Union, for the great collaboration with my colleagues from the ministry and also from our research promotion agency, FFG, for organizing this event. And it was already mentioned, there were some satellite events yesterday. There was also another very important event I would want to highlight. Yesterday evening at the ministry, we launched the regional chapter Austria of Women in Aerospace. And when I was speaking my welcoming words there, I saw a lot of women in the room, which made me think, oh, wait, what's the problem? So when I look here, I'm thinking, okay, please do join women in aerospace wherever you are. And let's also make sure that we have a very diverse community. So why space at a climate action ministry? Well, you know better than me, space and Earth observation, really space technology really is our eye from space to Earth, and more than half of the essential variables defined by the global climate observing system depend on space observations, making space assets the key elements in providing observations and data that are global, uniform, sustained over years, and with a high temporal resolution. And for those of you who are really scientists, you know obviously how important that quality of data is. So from our perspective, and all the other co-organizers agree, I think space data and applications are really key for the green and digital transformation of our society and economy. And this is really very much in line with the Austrian space strategy 2030, where one of our six goals is space for all areas of life, meaning, amongst others, that space data and signals generated by weather, Earth, observation, telecommunications, and navigation satellites are used really as an integral part of everyday life, which they are already without people knowing, but it should be more. So it's really great to see that during this particular BiDS', and Pierre just mentioned, it was the first after the pandemic, there's a dedicated session on impact on decision and policy making, since this is also a field where we need an increased use of satellite-enabled insights. Two things, of course, from a policymaker perspective. A key focus is on policy making. Why are we setting certain measures? What exact problems are we trying to address in order really to make informed decisions, which should be our goal, and set priorities? We really need to, in some cases, better understand the current conditions of our planet. And another important aspect is of course, then afterwards, evaluating the effectiveness of policy measures, also something where space data and space applications really help us to achieve impact. Thanks to technology and data processing innovation, Earth observation data can support us, for example, in greenhouse gas monitoring and the establishment of national greenhouse gas inventories under the Paris Agreement, and in efforts to reduce our emissions. So in Austria, we launched a big flagship project called GHG Kit, where the consortium is developing an Earth observation-enabled methodology and prototype that will support greenhouse gas reporting, and the Environment Agency Austria is on board as a user. And mind you, before this current job, I used to be Director of Science and Innovation of the Austrian Environment Agency, so this project was really close to my heart, because this kind of data and this kind of project really enables us to get a lot more real time and greenhouse gas monitoring and reporting than we currently are. And by the way, I think I'm not sure whether it was mentioned already, the connection between space applications and the green and digital transformation of our economy and society is also addressed currently, just today and yesterday in Sevilla at the Space Summit of the European Space Agency. So data, which is of course the big topic of this conference, and synergies between different sectors' applications. Let me say a couple of words on this. Of course, we do have an unprecedented amount of data from satellites, data archives, data management, data processing according to the needs of the users is of course crucial. In Vienna, we have the Earth Observation Data Center, EODC, which provides access to a petabyte-scale Earth observation data repository. They're hosting actual near real-time as well as historic Copernicus Sentinel data to close the gap between research and practice. And of course, it's my job to also, sell a bit of all the things we have in Vienna now. So mentioning EODC was really something I wanted to do. Another important aspect, and I will just name three examples of application, is kind of the mutual inspiration and synergies between the space and non-space sectors, which of course in the end should also ultimately open up and promote new business solutions for those of you active in the business sector, for then climate transformation and healthy environment. So what we've been doing, and I know that my space team at the ministry has been doing it from the very beginning when I was still working in mobility, they've been running around trying to basically sell this data, sell the applications, and ask people in all sorts of other sectors, biodiversity, environment, mobility, what can you do with this data? Where can you actually use it for your policy? So a couple of key users I would want to highlight in Austria, and I really just have time for three. Verbund is Austria's leading energy company and one of the largest producers of electricity from hydropower in Europe, a service developed by the Austrian space company NVO, helps Verbund to fill gaps in their snow and ice melting models, and thus to better predict hydroenergy production. Very important application. Second example, Agrarmarkt Austria, they changed their monitoring system of EU subsidies provided under the Common Agricultural Policy, which in terms of budget is the biggest chunk of all the budget being dished out by the European Union. Since the beginning of this year, the monitoring is done through a satellite-based control system, and the Austrian companies GeoVil and EOX have developed this product, and they are also present in the exhibition area, so please also check out our exhibition area out there. And the last example I want to mention, and this is obviously being developed by ESA, together with Austrian space companies, is the Green Transition Information Factory, which is there to really show the added value of space data for the green transition. You can also learn more about GTIF in the demo booth outside. So data is one thing, but also how do you work with all this data? A couple of things are important: machine learning, AI, which is why also using AI for something is one of the main priorities of our ministry. So we set up a program 3 years ago called AI for Green. And already have 20 projects up and running, and some of these projects also satellite data plays a key role due to their high quality and temporal resolution. So from the kind of examples I mentioned and from the couple of topics I highlighted, what I really wanted to show is, as a climate, environment, mobility, energy, innovation technology ministry, we really do look at the space sector and at Earth observation and the technologies as a really important provider of data, technologies, and solutions to actually solve our policy problems, which is also why our national program, the ASAP, Austrian Space Applications Program, already in existence since 2002, really tries to focus on the transitions in different areas needed. We really do dedicate a budget for this. And BiDS', of course, is a platform for exchanging ideas. Pierre already mentioned this. Ideas usually do not only come when we sit in our offices on our own, but when we meet and mingle at conferences like this. So I really do wish you a fruitful conference, and hopefully see many of you tomorrow evening at Vienna City Hall. Vienna is hosting an evening reception where I will again have the pleasure to meet you. Thank you.
To the welcoming speech from the European Space Agency that will be given by Nick Hanowski. Nick is leading the Mission Management and Ground Segment Department in the Earth Observation Program Directorate in Frascati, Italy. Nick, the floor is yours.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you very much. Again, my name is Nick Hanowski. I'm the head of Mission Management and Ground Segments. That means that I'm responsible for the operations of the Copernicus Sentinels and the ESA Earth Explorer missions, and for a large portfolio of what we call contributing mission data sets. Before I start, and I have a few slides, so I would ask the technology people here to see whether we can get the slides going. Maybe just a few comments up front. So first of all, the proportion of familiar faces is very high, so this feels more like a family meeting than a official conference. For the, shall I push something else? Here we go. Very good. Okay, thanks. So if at all it is necessary to give a few arguments why we have a justification to talk about big data from space, I've prepared a few slides to illustrate this from the perspective of the Earth observation programs. Again, the Earth observation programs is very happy to be able to provide the nucleation point for a community like this one, focusing around the data flows and the management and the analytics related to the data that we are receiving. So just as a reminder, this is our program structure. We have three key elements. We have the science element, we have the Copernicus element, and we have a metrology element. The operations of the metrology missions, of course, are handled by our colleagues in Darmstadt of EUMETSAT. And our ambition is to develop world-class Earth observation systems with European and global partners to address scientific and societal challenges. The meeting, the summit in Sevilla was just mentioned, again, a key milestone towards redefining and upgrading and defining the evolutionary trajectory of European Earth observation in the Earth observation programs. In terms of the satellites we are operating, we have 14 satellites operational, and again, the key argument to be made when it comes to big data is the realization that we have in total 77 satellites now to be taken care of. This includes a large fleet of Sentinel expansion missions, Sentinel next generation missions, new Earth explorers, scout missions, and something that is not mentioned here, also managing the incoming and the dissemination of data from commercial data providers, from national mission data providers. So it's becoming really a big data ecosystem with all the implications that this entails. When it comes to the activities and to illustrating a little bit in what way this data ecosystem is fueled, one only needs to take a look at the Earth observations program as decided less than a year ago in the ministerial conference in Paris. And again, under the label Taking the Pulse of the Planet from Space, we have a major program element that focuses on the development of Earth Explorer satellites, our Future AO program with the development part, the project part, the ground segment and operations part, and the applications, science, services part. Of course, Copernicus is a cooperative program in which also ESA member states are contributing to the funding of the European Union program. And again, we were very successful with an oversubscription to Copernicus in the last ministerial. Then we have two programs that are quite relevant also in the context and will certainly be discussed also here at this occasion from various angles. The Digital Twin Earth program, a program that is now fully subscribed by the member states, and our successful InCube program, in which we are building partnerships with industry for novel technologies on the ground and in space when it comes to Earth observation. And of course, there's a subset of activities relating to the evolution of our successful Earth Explorer Aeolus for the metrology program, so these follow-on missions for Aeolus 2 Truth, a UK-initiated initiative which is quite important for cross-referencing various missions in space. The Climate Space program with obvious justification, obvious momentum, and a set of what we call basic activities, because they are not directly funded out of the Earth observation budget, but out of the general budget, the ESA common budget for activities that are relating to common interests of various directorates in the European Space Agency. So that's the portfolio, and I can tell you that with the events that are now taking place in Sevilla, we are actually already entering the hot phase for the next ministerial conference. So after the ministerial for the European Space Agency, and in particular for an optional program such as the Earth observation program that always needs to be at the forefront of arguments that make these optional subscription attractive. We are shaping the new program as we speak, and there are a lot of topics that will be covered. After looking at the program, I can confirm that already, that will find the flow directly into the proposals that we will be making at the next ministerial conference in 2025. Just to give you a few other hints why I think it's justifiable to talk about big data from space these days when it comes to the Earth observation programs. Of course, we now have entered the new stage, the new phase of the Copernicus data space ecosystem. We are not talking about a data-specific or Copernicus data-specific access. We are talking about an ecosystem where a lot more functions than just data access are provided in order to facilitate the uptake of the data, the integration of data into new applications and services. This Copernicus data space ecosystem is supported by the largest ever data management and ground segment contract issued and closed in coordination with the European Commission with industry. So industry is pushing and helping us to establish and evolving that ecosystem very actively as we speak. The second element that I want to introduce here, another good reason to talk about big data these days, is our engagement in Destination Earth. Destination Earth is a European Commission initiative for a digital twin Earth. We are entering the last stretch of the phase one of that activity together with our partners under the lead of DG Connect, which are EUMETSAT and ECMWF. This is in the first phase aiming to provide a digital twin based on data models and high-performance computing for decision-making, policy support in the context of climate change adaptation and extreme events. But the system overall is intended to become much broader, much more integrative, much more versatile. And for that purpose, with the support of the European Union, with the European Commission, we have entered the program element Digital Twin Earth at the last ministerial. And again, as I said, the program is fully subscribed, it's fully underway, and its key intention is to facilitate the onboarding of member states' activities in that domain and integrate this via our core service platform in Destiny into the Destination Earth environment. So this is very active, very fast moving forward. And actually this week we are meeting all of us, all partners, in order to consolidate the next phase. We are actually preparing an ESA Council decision later this year to consolidate the next phase via a so-called contributing agreement with the European Union, and the same in an equivalent fashion is true for ECMWF and EUMETSAT. So this is, again, underway. The operational phase is becoming very near. We are intending to open the system by the mid of next year. Why would I insist so much on the big data aspect of this element? If we just think about the output of these systems, we will be entering a phase of having to manage data 100 times more voluminous as we are managing today. So these digital twin systems with their high-performance computing power are very data intense, and it's something that we need to take into account when we talk about handling that data and utilizing that data, also in the context of the conference here. And then last but not least, I want to mention an initiative that is gaining a big momentum also for us. We are not only looking inward, we are looking outward with our key partners. And in particular with NASA, we are developing a so-called MAP, a mission algorithm and analysis platform. in which we are jointly intending to integrate data from various missions. I think, very visionary concept in which in the future programs, missions become transparent for the users because the data sets will be prepared and will be offered in an environment for seamless integration and for seamless applications. And that is something that we feel is really carrying a lot of weight in terms of international cooperation, in terms of thinking of Earth observation missions, not in terms of individual programs, but in terms of systems of systems. And then finally, let me just show two last slides that I've reintegrated into my slide set here from a commercialization forum that we were running last week in Paris. A very successful forum, particularly aimed at industry and investors interested to go forward in investing in Earth observation technology and systems. I think from our perspective, from an ESA perspective, we are naturally redistributing the budgets that we are receiving to 85% to industry and institutions in order to implement the programs and the activities that we are responsible for. I think from an Earth observation perspective is ever more clear that industry is becoming very mature also in the data management domain. So we are moving from defining the how to the what, and to appeal to the innovativeness and the creativity of industry to resolve the how questions on many of the aspects, in particular in the Earth in the IT domain. Integrating Earth observation and IT competences is a key aspect of the work as it has evolved over the last 5 to 10 years, but not only in terms of the competences, but also looking at the processes that the IT industries is employing, and in terms of the objectives that come together. And when we are fostering relationships between institutions and services, service companies, we always need to have in mind that this happens in a very dynamic global environment in which new technology, new applications and services will decide who will be able to bring forward Earth observation and find the solutions needed to address burning issues. Finally, we are intending to accelerate the integration of ground segment and data management service into the workflows of business models. To put it a bit easily, I would say that the moment that our activities, the functions that we need to provide for Copernicus Sentinels, for Earth Explorers, for all the Earth observation data management activities can become part of a business model, it can become a natural part of the value generation of companies, that constitutes a major success. And then we intend to develop the ecosystem with functional and service components interacting, so this interactive nature is really important. We harness the proximity to the data since Europe is in charge, has the proximity, is owning big infrastructures, the quality, integrity, timeliness, completeness, and availability of the data are key factors in generating also a commercial advantage when it comes to industrial utilization. And in the end, this is also a matter of European sovereignty. We want to be an important, a relevant partner in the context of global Earth observation methodologies and challenges. And in that sense, we need a strong industry and a strong companies, strong institutions, which all work seamlessly together and take us forward. And with that, I think I've said a few, hopefully, good rationales why this conference deserves the name Big Data from Space. So it's really about big Earth observation data, big data. And with that, I thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nick. Let's proceed now with the welcome speech from the Joint Research Center that will be given by Tom de Groeve. Tom is heading the Disaster Risk Management Unit at the Joint Research Center, the Directorate for Space, Security and Migration.
Thank you.
Tom, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks a lot. I'm Tom de Groeve. I'm leading the Disaster Risk Management Unit at the JRC, and I've been asked to say a few words on behalf of the JRC. This conference is very important for the JRC, the Joint Research Center, and that's why we have started this from a long time ago, because the JRC is, the mission of the Joint Research Center is to provide the science and evidence in the policy cycle. We are a boundary organization. We are part of the European Commission, and we are part of the research environment. And this boundary role is very important to provide the evidence and the data for many of the policies. It's the whole policy cycle that's important, and the GRC provides, like was mentioned before, also information for designing policies, but also implementing them and evaluating them. It's a long history, I think, and I'm proud to say that the origin of the conference started actually in the unit that I'm now leading. Before it was the Global Security and Crisis Management Unit, because we saw, and then there was a lot of use of space data for global security and crisis management, at the origins of the Copernicus programs and all. So we were exploring how to use all this data that came available for policies like global security, crisis management, and in the end also the disaster management. And it was Pierre that started many years ago, the first edition, following up from conferences that were called differently before, into this event, which now is a very important event, gathering more than 700 people, so very impressive. Last time the theme was from insight to foresight, and I think this theme probably is still valid also now. It is the concept of turning all this data into, in the end, understanding of what's going on and using that then for the policy making, for getting insights and perhaps even anticipating what will happen so we can act better. The societal challenges have been mentioned, and I think many of you are working on the big societal challenges, climate change, but also geopolitics. It's a geopolitical commission now too, so information from space on what's happening also in the non-environment space, like the social sphere and or the geopolitical sphere is also very important, and that is an area of a lot of investment. Biodiversity and of course in my area, disasters and civil protection. It's still an area where Earth observation is very, very, very important and where we can do a lot of progress. You may know that the GRC started in 2019 the Knowledge Center for Earth Observation. And I want to mention it because it's a specific tool in the GRC to try to convert to make sense of what the policy needs and translate those into research needs, and the other way to take stock of the technology and bring this as much as possible in the many policy areas that the Commission has. They do deep dives, and recently there was a deep dive, for instance, on biodiversity with outcomes that are very relevant both for the research programs and for the uptake of the science, and this will continue. So please do engage with the Knowledge Center if you think this is interesting for you. But I will have three messages maybe here. Open data, open source, and open algorithms. And I'll give some examples from this and why this is so important for using Earth observation data and big data in the policy context. For the first one, I mentioned Copernicus. Copernicus is a very mature system now. We are running in our unit the Copernicus Emergency Management Service with many of its components that is very successful and really turns a lot of this Earth observation data into life-saving products and understanding of the crisis, situational awareness, but also risk analysis in the future. And also we do part of the land monitoring service at JRC, a sister unit to us. And both systems are very vibrant and alive. They gather a lot of companies and scientists to evolve these systems all the time. But the strength maybe is the openness of the data. No, the data is available to everyone and can be used in this area of civil protection, which is very, very public policy and where data is very important. One example is the global human settlement layer. For instance, we just released this year a new version, the 2023 version of population and built-up data. Crucial for disaster risk, because we know what is at stake and where it is globally. Disaster, but also other crises. The data is used a lot in the media right now to see what's happening in the Gaza Strip. The built-up data there is very good quality and gives a good picture of what's where anywhere in the world. The multi-temporal aspect of it is also very important. You can see the changes from the 70s to now, more or less, and this is useful for sustainable development, for understanding really what's going on in the urban sphere. A second element in the Emergency Management Service is we're very proud of the global flood monitoring tool. This is a brand new tool looking at floods on a daily basis. It's a shift from looking when there is a flood and activating satellites to look at the flood to an always-on system. It's always monitoring. We process all the data, and this is routinely done, so we don't miss the floods. Even if nobody thinks to look there, still it's being recorded, and this is very useful. We think we will have a big contribution to a global archive on floods, flood impacts that can be used, of course, to study the hydrological cycle. Open data, very important, but also open source. And here I want to mention the project that actually Pierre is leading in the JRC. I had the privilege in 2021 to work on the JRC data strategy. The first time the JRC really put together a strategy on data, realizing that there's a lot, and we are an organization, science organization, that of course uses data and analyzes. It's our bread and butter. But perhaps we weren't strategic enough about it. And so there were some realizations that we should do this in a more integrated way, more impact-oriented way, communicate about the use of data and these type of things. And we put together this strategy, which now is implemented, and which, for example, has also a service element inside the organization to try to organize all this data and make it available at the scientists at the least cost possible, providing a service, and this is the tool we have inside the big data analytics platform that is going through evolutionary cycles. A mini version of some of the big projects that are shown at European level, but it is important that an organization can harness its own data and is open to external collaborations. Very important there is the choice to do everything open source and to try to have an open source approach to all the components in this complex ecosystem. It's not only Earth observation data, it started from that because the volumes are very big, but now there's big data outside of Earth observation too. Yesterday they released ChatGPT 4, I think, and there's a lot of new, big, enormous data sources available that are important to integrate with, and most of the innovation is to connect these different data sources to each other in a big ecosystem. The final thing is linked to that a little bit, and is these open algorithms, and it is always, it's nice to do a piece of research and then you come to an interesting conclusion that seems to make sense, but you cannot explain exactly how you got to the results. There's kind of a black box in the middle that leads to it. Very effective, and you can do a lot of things with it, but in a policy context, sometimes it's important to understand why certain results or conclusions are reached. And this is an important element that the GRC is working on. Outside of this context, it's we've set up the European Center for Algorithmic Transparency. Perhaps you've heard of that. That was last year. And it is a big attempt to look at these issues to support the policy that is being made at EU level, of course. There's a lot in this area. the Digital Services Act and things like that. So it's important to study this and to make sense of it. In this context too, for the Earth observation, for instance, the Global Human Settlement Layer again is a project that has taken this approach of an open box, an open approach to this fully open. So those are the three messages: open data, open source, and open algorithms. I think it's very important in the context of policy to do this. With also a very strong element of collaboration, of course. None of this can be done alone by an organization. The collaboration is very important, and that's why we're very happy to co-organize this also with ESAT and SatCen and Austria, but also in all the operational systems to work with so many good companies and academic institutions that make it possible to do a big innovation in this area. Thanks a lot.
Many thanks, Tom. Okay, now it's time for last welcoming speech from the European Union Satellite Center that will be given by Sergio Albani, that is leading the Research, Technology Development and Innovation Unit at the SatCen.
So, good morning, everybody. It is a real pleasure to be here today and open this conference on behalf of SatCen. My name is Sergio Albani. I'm the head of the Research, Technology Development and Innovation Unit at the European Union Satellite Center within the Capability Development Department. So let me start this speech by briefly introducing the European Union Satellite Center. SatCen is an agency of the Council of the European Union. We are located in the vicinity of Madrid in Spain. And our mission is to support the decision-making and actions of the European Union in the field of common foreign and security policy. This is a sort of foreign policy of the European Union, by providing products and services resulting from the exploitation of relevant space assets and collateral data. So, in few words, SatCen is the geospatial intelligence agency of the European Union, and our main users are the European External Action Service, EU member states, the European Commission, and other EU and international entities. So, as you can imagine, we are primary users of Earth observation satellite data. We have more than 30 years of experience in the exploitation of satellite imagery. And in the last decade, in the close liaison with the European Commission, SatCen has incorporated into its portfolio the Copernicus service in support of EU external and security actions. We are also supporting Frontex in the provision of the Copernicus border surveillance service. So, of course, in addition to this, so in addition to the provision of operational services, SatCen is continuously working on implementation of EU strategic initiatives in the fields of space and security, such as, for instance, the EU Space Strategy for Security and Defense. And we are undertaking all the necessary actions with the highest quality and technical standards. So, of course, to maintain and even enhance the EU capacity for informed policy and decision-making in front of the current security challenges, it is necessary to incorporate into our value chain the latest technological advances in the space and in the IT domains. For that purpose, SatCen is fully committed to participating in suitable research and innovation actions and collaborative initiatives, such as the one gathering us here today. So today, we are in Vienna. This is the 6th edition of the Big Data from Space conference. I'm honored to be one of the 3 chairs together with Pierre and Stephanie from JRC and ESA. This edition will not only focus on solutions that enable insights and foresight from big data, as Tom was remembering before, but we are moving a bit forward. We are also going to evaluate the impact that these solutions have on society. So, to put you in context, let me refer to the domain in which SatCen is involved, so the safety and the security of citizens and societies. So there's a rapidly changing geopolitical situation, and this, together with the consequences of other global issues, is motivating policy and decision makers to consider new security scenarios. So governments and international organizations are now working to guarantee and improve the safety, the security, the well-being of citizens, and this is raising the awareness of the complex world we are living. And there's the need to understand the impact of a wide range of events. So today the definition of security is going through a spiral of changes. Security is no longer a term only associated to the particular event in time and in space, but it requires the understanding of the link between different events that traditionally were addressed in a separate manner. So I would like to give you an example so you can understand better what I'm trying to explain. This example is climate security. So climate security refers to the impact of the climate crisis on peace and security, and particularly in fragile and conflict-affected settings. Specific climate security scenarios can include, for instance, population displacements or conflicts due to scarcity of resources. Now, these two domains, climate and security, one time it was supposed not to be addressed at the same time, while now we can fully understand the link between these two. And as you can imagine, there is urgency to advance in the understanding of these new scenarios and the necessity to put in place relevant actions to mitigate the effect of the identified risks. So this is increasing the demand of new methods, new solutions that can extract reliable information, maximizing the exploitation of available data. Available data that now are, which volume and which variety is increasing at an even faster pace. So this same challenge is also applicable to other domains than security, and this is acknowledged by relevant actors, for instance, the European Commission, who is sponsoring the Destination Earth initiative that foresees the implementation of digital twin Earth in models tailored to specific domains. So this conference has been gathering hundreds of participants that work with space-related big data. For almost 10 years, I guess. So it is a matter, of course, that space has something important to say in response to the emerging needs. So, data from space. Data from space are now available, as I was saying, daily, in the order of petabytes, and this is expected to even increase, consider the dynamic of the sector, in which the development and launch of satellites has exponentially grown in the last 5 years. So now satellite imagery, including video, is available globally with very short revisiting times, and in addition, research in areas such as artificial intelligence has boosted the emergence of algorithms for Earth observation data processing and fusion that automatically can extract some features, enhancing the final information. And on top of that, many entities are moving their resources to the cloud, so benefiting from larger processing and storing capacities, and so somehow changing the paradigm to access and share data. So today, the main challenge to me in the Earth observation domain is to make the maximum profit of these technologies and of the huge amount of data available, to extract suitable information, and to guarantee a reliable, on time, on quality response, in line, of course, with the final user needs. In the specific case of SatCen, every day faster and more efficient delivery and processing capabilities are required to ensure the 24/7 provision of information to users, requiring time-critical response for informed decision-making. And this is why we need to be part of the latest technological trends to ensure that the EU capabilities are responding to current needs and really has a positive impact on society. So, in this, how can I say, dynamic context, it is fundamental to maintain the EU capabilities at the state of the art, and this carries implicitly the need to invest continuously on research and innovation activities to improve the SatCen operational capacity. So our long-term overarching R&D objective is to support the enhancement of SatCen products and services to respond to actual and emerging user needs, exploiting the best suited solutions available. So the research and innovation activities that we are currently carrying out at SatCen goes from the exchange with final users to gather their needs, to define use cases, to the liaison with satellite data providers to identify new data, always with the final goal of improving all the stages of the data value chain. So the current R&D activities we are performing we are implementing at SatCen, they are performed through the participation in key EU research and innovation framework programs, such as Horizon Europe, in cooperative actions with key partners, such as the Commission and ESA, in dedicated projects we are carrying on with academia and industry, and of course in service evolution initiatives through the Copernicus delegated services. As an example, the cooperation between SatCen and the European Commission includes a wide range of activities, from the involvement in specific R&D projects to the implementation of relevant services in support to the EU space program. Of course, SatCen is fully committed to support the implementation of the EU space program as well as other EU strategic actions. Another good example of cooperation that brings us here today is the administrative arrangement we have in place with ESA, which formalized a structured framework to jointly carry out R&D activities of common interest. Just to mention one, the large-scale pilot on climate security, which is planned to enter into its execution phase in the coming months. So, to conclude, cooperation is key to undertaking big challenges, as it allows to share effort, to share knowledge, and big data from space is an outstanding opportunity to communicate, to share, to discuss ideas, to discuss common interest initiatives, revolutionary concepts related to the exploitation of space-related big data. So this conference covers a wide range of topics that make it unique, as it makes possible the gathering of stakeholders involved along the complete data value chain, so from the design and operation of satellites to the final users of the data generated, passing through ground segment, communication capabilities, and of course, processing methodologies and technologies. SatCen is glad to be one of the three entities organizing this conference, which is a live demonstration of the value provided by the cooperation I was mentioning. So I do believe that these 3 days in front of us will bring new perspectives to advance towards the enhancement of European capabilities in the space domain, and specifically in those areas supporting the safety and security and well-being of the EU and more widely of our planet. So I want to thank you, JRC and ESA, for organizing with us this conference, and of course a special thank to Austria, to BMK and FFG for the support in hosting BiDS' 2023. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Sergio.